In our recent videos, we started looking at components inside Bootstrap. Now we're going to look at another one, something called the card. And the card is a great way to help separate out and identify some specific information. Cards can be used for a lot of different reasons. We're just going to show you how to create the card and let you figure out what's a good way to describe things. Maybe it's a list of products, maybe it's a list of employees, etc. So let's show you how we're going to create a card. So I can go inside and I'm going to be part of this container and my row and my columns and stuff like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a column to my right hand side. So I'm going to come over here, say div call -3. Inside this, I'm going to do div class card. So this is my first step. I'm just creating a card. Inside of that, I'm going to have another div. This is going to be class card-body. Now I can use any text I want. So I'm going to come over here real quick, grab my lorem ipsum text, just like you see that. And now you notice because I created my own separate column, I have my card, it fits right in here. You might ask, well, is there a limit to how big my card can be? So I'm going to come over here and say column 8, reload it. Notice my card is taking up my full space. So something I want to be mindful of is how much space does this card need to be? And I can specify either width inside of it, specify that as part of my class, or I can use my columns to help, especially if I want to have a whole group of things, I want to line them up, I can do it like that. So just something to kind of keep in mind. Let's go back here. You notice that as a card, it automatically gives me a little bit of a border, gives me a white background, some real basic things like this. Now, of course, I can have even more from this, okay? I'm not limited to just this. So inside my card body, I'm going to create a new div, the class of card-title. So yes, I do put my title inside of my body. That's fine. Put in my lorem ipsum like that. Reload, and notice it has my lorem ipsum like you see there. Now you notice it's the same thing. It's like, well, wait a second, is that really supposed to be the same? So no, probably not. So what I'm going to do is instead of having a div here, do an H5 like that. So now I have my heading text. And then here I'm going to say div with a class card-text. Put my closing tag there. Format the document so it looks a little bit nicer. Now if I reload it, notice my text is exactly the same, but it's now saying, ooh, yeah, I'm going to use this. So I can use that div with my card text, or I could come in here and say, you know what, I want to make this a paragraph tag. Notice it does the exact same thing. So it's just a semantic thing at this point. Now here I have the card title. I can also have a subtitle if I want. So I'm going to do an H6 as a smaller class subtitle. So this might be where I have like a person's name, and then underneath I have their job title or something like that. So you see this looks pretty similar with the other thing versus, you might say, well, do I need to separate this out? Yeah, you probably do. So there's a couple things we can do. I'm going to come down here and say MB, that's for my margin bottom. And you know what? I'm going to say -2. I just need a little bit of margin. I can also go in and give a text color. Secondary, save that, reload, and you'll notice it gives me a little bit of space. That way it's a little bit more laid out, a little bit nicer, easier to read. The text secondary is a minor thing. It's just saying, hey, I don't want this as dark. So we're focusing on the important pieces. Just a couple real quick things that we can do. This is great if we're just using text, but I can also put in links as well as information such as an image. So let's see how we're going to do that. Here, I'm going to have an A tag. href, once again, we're just saying it's going to go to the same page. Class card-link. And I'm just going to call this link 1. And you notice it creates a real simple link down the bottom. This could obviously say things like more info, or learn more, or read more, anything I want. I'm just using link 1. I can have more than one link. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. This is link 2. After I reload that, notice it gives me some space in between my links. So this is not quite a navigation type link, but it's very easy for me to use, especially if I've got big fingers that might accidentally click on the wrong link. This really does help. To add an image, I'm going to come up here at the top, say image. And I already have an image up here. I always want to have my alt attribute. This is always important. Robot coding this page. Name of a class. img-top. So now if I reload, here's my image. My image is actually bigger than what that column is, so it's automatically shrinking it down, but it's going to fit inside that card perfectly. I don't have to resize it or anything like that. Now, I do want to be careful that my image isn't too big because it takes a lot of extra time to download. So I want to keep my images pretty close to the right size, but here's a great way to do it. And you notice it automatically fits. Now, you also probably notice that, hey, wait a second, I put an image-top. If I did -bottom, you might go, well, what happened? Well, you notice that it doesn't put it to the bottom of my card, but if you notice, the bottom of my image is rounded, the top is square. Where if I said top, the top of my image is rounded, but the bottom is square. That way it fits with the shape and design of my card. Because notice my card does have this little rounded edges on the border. So that's what it's doing. I want to make sure I use it appropriately. Does that mean I could have 2 images, one for my top and one for my bottom, and have them appropriately rounded both sides? Of course it does. Now, this is just an introduction to your cards. In cards, I can also have things like footers. I can put in list items and a variety of other things. I just want to give you some information to get started so you can start laying things out. If you want to do more, you can always check out the documentation for your cards on the Bootstrap docs. We have more components we're going to look at. Next up is going to be forms. You should see a link on the screen now, as well as if you don't know, we have a whole playlist of information that you can take a look at for learning Bootstrap and getting started with using it. So check those videos out if you haven't already.